I don't care how Jesus you are or whatever it is, or if you're like, I'm so progressive, I'd be great if like, if it was just like a whole colony of like foxes that moved next door.
A colony. Great usage of colony.
Thank you.
Now I want to find out what's a group of foxes.
Oh my gosh.
Please do. But we have those, the thems.
Yeah.
And we find it, I think, difficult to be kind or even just to be around. And so it's like it's the silence in the actual separation that is actually the most unkind. Because what is the number one human need? To belong.
Right.
To be loved. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, I'm not being mean. I'm not, they're invisible. Well, actually, that's to its core really the most evil thing you could do to another human being.
Yeah.
Poof, you're invisible to me.
Welcome to Behind the Mic, the deep dive behind radio theology. Here are your hosts, Darren Earlywine, Lisa Graff, and Ryan Allward.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Mic. Man, it's cozy back here behind the mic, isn't it?
It is.
It's
nice.
I mean,
So
all these
good.
big covers and blankets we have behind the mic.
God, that'd be so fun. Do like a beanbag chair,
Oh, I would love one
By
of
the
those.
fire.
Yeah.
weighted blanket.
Snuggle. A weighted blanket. Come on now.
It's 30 degrees in Indianapolis when and where we're recording this.
Yeah. I'm currently staring at multiple inches of snow.
Ugh.
Yeah.
The good news, guys, is that between right now,
Yeah.
which it currently is, and in our neck, it's 28 degrees actually. Over the next 8 hours, the temperature is going to plummet to single digits.
Yay.
Yeah. This reminds me a lot of growing up in Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh,
Does
yeah?
it-
How so?
Yeah. Well,
in all the opposite ways.
yeah. You
or-
take everything
Yeah.
terrible and you omit it, and then
Yeah.
drop in
Yeah.
sunny awesomeness. That's what it reminds me of.
Did you guys
Wow.
have a yard of rocks in Arizona? That's a big thing out in the Southwest, isn't it?
It is. Now I lived out in Arizona a long time ago. We had grass, very small. We had the front yard had 2 square patches of grass.
Okay.
And then the backyard had 1 small patch of grass.
Okay.
I would say that our backyard was probably maybe 15 by 15, maybe 20 by 20.
Okay.
Now, we had a very large pool back there.
Oh, okay.
Sure, you have to have a pool.
You had to.
In Arizona.
Had to have a pool.
It's a dry heat.
It is a dry heat. That's why you have to have a pool.
Yep.
Anyway, we're not talking about that. We are behind the mic. And I had a great episode this week, February 16th, the week of February 16th, 2020. You may be listening to this in the future. I hope it's a good day for you, whatever you're doing. And welcome to the past of February 16th, 2020. We talked a little bit about being good neighbors. This kind of got me going this week because watched the Oscars a couple weeks ago, and Tom Hanks was up for Best Supporting Actor for Won't You Be My Neighbor. And we just so happened to be putting together a sermon series at Mercy Road, the church that we all attend, called the same thing. And so thought about it, thought, you know what, guys, this could be good because on the tail end of that, at all the same times, I watched the State of the Union address.
Yeah.
And if you watched it in 2020, right, I mean, Trump, it's basically a big, Trump rally. I like some of the stuff he said. It's tough, hard to not get, I from what I can tell, it's true that our economy is doing well and people are getting jobs. You never know because everybody's a liar and they skew all the things. But
Yes.
from what I understand, economy's great. Things are doing great. I think I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi.
There was some full pettiness on display
Full petty.
on both sides.
Yes.
Both sides.
Petulant children, and it happens every year.
Yeah, it's
No matter who's president, doesn't
Yes.
matter.
So
I'm
basically,
stand.
I'm
No,
done
no.
with both of them.
Yes.
I'm honestly done with politics.
Sure.
They're not going to fix anything. If you think our government is the answer to fixing all of the problems in our culture, you're going to be waiting a long time and
Yeah.
sorely disappointed. The government's not supposed to fix it. The church is. So if you're a part of the church, welcome to the part of the solution. And part of the solution, I think, honestly, comes down to great lessons that Mr. Rogers taught us, who in his mentor in life was Jesus. Which a lot of times I think it's interesting because people know Mr. Rogers. Like, oh, I remember that show, The Puppets, and the little trolley train that went to, what was it called? Make Believe Land? No.
Yeah, the land of make believe.
Maybe
Is that what
so.
it was? We got to
Anyway, I loved watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Sure.
As a kid, I didn't know he was a Christian.
Okay, yeah.
And not until I was recently an adult that I realized that he was actually an ordained minister and felt like his mission field was TV. Like he was ordained by the denomination he grew up in to be a minister on TV, which I think is really freaking cool.
yeah.
But one of the quotes we shared was his that says, 3 steps to being a successful good neighbor is be kind, be kind, and be kind.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I thought about it this past couple of weeks, it's a simple thing to say, but when we get faced with people that trigger us, that don't see the world our way, that they're dumb to us.
Right.
One of the quickest thing that leaves is kindness.
Oh gosh, yeah. Especially online. I mean, I don't play with any of that stuff because that's nonsense to me. But I can see how people do because it's a lot easier to speak your mind when you're not sitting face to face.
Yeah. The comment section of Facebook never gets anything done.
No.
No positive change in the world.
And that's why when people are like, what do you think about this? I'm like, I think that I'm not engaging you on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what I've noticed, though. Have you ever observed someone in a face-to-face argument the same way they go after each other on Facebook?
Oh my gosh, no way.
No.
I haven't either.
No, there's no way.
I haven't seen anybody engage that way in person. And so here's what I think happens. We avoid anyone that doesn't think and act and believe like us.
Mm-hmm.
We attack each other in the privacy of the internet, and then we avoid each other face to face. And we wonder why we have an epidemic of loneliness.
Right.
Because we're too afraid to actually sit face to face with another human being that we don't agree with and just be kind to one another.
Right.
Like,
Why is it so scary? Like, why is it so scary to be kind?
To someone you don't necessarily agree with, or just in general?
Just in general. I guess it's not scary. It's vulnerable, maybe.
I think it's easy to be, on the surface, we're kind to each other.
Sure.
Usually.
Yeah.
We hold doors open for people. We say
Yeah.
please and thank you. The niceties, the pleasantries.
Right.
Yeah.
But true kindness that ushers in a real, genuine relationship.
Well, what is it like if you find out that the category, because I think here's the deal. We usually have 2 categories of people. There's the us's and then there's the thems.
Yeah.
There's people, and you have a list of us's. And your us is different than my us. Then you have them, those people, them,
The other.
the others. And we all have them. We can be like, well, I don't have that list. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
And here's how you would know it. Who would you be okay with moving in next door to you? My guess is your quick list. Like, just real quick, here's a pen and a paper. Write down top 3 things you'd be good moving next door to you. It would be your us list.
Yeah.
Then real quick, could you write down the 3 or 4, qualities of people that you would rather not be your neighbor? I don't care how Jesus you are or whatever it is. Or if you're like, I'm so progressive, I'd be great if if it was just like a whole colony of like foxes that moved next door.
A colony. Great usage of colony.
Thank you.
Now I want to find out what's a group of
What
foxes.
group of foxes?
my
Please
gosh.
do, Ryan. Please do. But we have those, the thems.
Yeah.
And we find it, I think, difficult to be kind or even just to be around. And so it's like it's the silence in the actual separation that is actually the most unkind. Because what is the number one human need? To belong,
Right.
to be loved. So it's like, well, I'm not being mean. I'm not, they're invisible. Well, actually, that's to its core really the most evil thing you could do to another human being.
Yeah.
Poof, you're invisible to me.
I don't like that.
Ryan, what are the foxes called?
I've learned so much about foxes. I didn't catch any of what you just said.
No problem.
The tone of it sounded great.
It was deep and meaningful.
A group of foxes is called a skulk, leash, or earth. I have no idea how they would have I don't know. Skulk?
I've heard of the skulk before.
I
I
have?
think it's in one of Josie's books. Wow. Is a skulk of foxes.
You know what baby foxes are called?
No.
Kits.
Kids. Yeah.
You knew that?
Yes. We have baby animal books.
You grew up on a farm as well.
And I grew up on
A male fox is called a dog, which makes no sense. And then the female fox is called a vixen, which is kind of cool.
Oh, well, now we know where
I like
things
that.
make sense.
Ding, ding,
Uh-huh.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Foxy lady.
Foxy lady, vixen. Everything's coming clear with these
Right.
skulls of
Men,
foxes.
dogs.
All right, we're talking about kindness and compassion to your neighbors, though, right?
Yes.
We are. Or
Yes.
just the people in general.
Okay. Great.
I haven't thought about what I just
And we're
said
back.
a minute ago until I just said it, until it came out of my mouth. And I did
What
actually
is it?
think that's kind of profound. The idea that we say, I'm being kind, but what we do is we make people invisible that we don't agree with.
Yeah. Yeah.
until we can't ignore them anymore.
Right, their voices scream and that's why everyone's rallying and screaming because they feel unheard. So they gather in masses to be seen and known.
Yeah. Well, it's like Black Lives Matter, right? Like white people are like, well, I kind of want to not know your experience.
Right.
Like you're invisible to me. I'm not racist. I'm nice to black people. Well, do you know any black people? Do you hang out with any black people? Do you know what their experience in life has been? No. They're invisible to me. Because in the Midwest, at least, if you're, there's not a lot of super segregated neighborhoods. So if I want to make black people, or I want to make white people, or I want to make Hispanic people, or I want to make Asian people invisible, or Indian people, it's easy. I just don't go where they are.
Right.
Therefore, I don't know really what it means to be kind and be compassionate with them because I'm not a part of their story.
Yeah.
This week, I told the story of getting to sit down with one of my friends who we've coached against each other in youth sports, and I would consider him an acquaintance and a friend, but I knew he saw the world completely different than me. And we sat down this week, and he started to share some of like, hey, here has been my experience living in Fishers for the past, decade. Mm-hmm. His experience, just his experience driving from his workplace to his home in Fishers has been massively different than my experience driving home every day.
Really? Can you tell us about that?
Well,
I know
just
it's not your story to tell, but
the amount of times, and we're not talking about 2. It's well into the double digits. The amount of times he's been pulled over in Fishers, or driving from Carmel to Fishers, is way up there.
Wow.
You know how many times I've been pulled over in Fishers?
2?
I think once. And then one other time I got pulled over. I've been pulled over twice in the country because I was going 78 miles an hour.
Well, that's where my mind goes, is like, why was he pulled over?
Well, one of the stories is he was at a stop sign and next to a police officer, and he took off from the stop sign, and the police officer got behind him and pulled him over. And he said, why'd you pull me over? Well, because you have out-of-state plates.
Okay.
That's weird.
And?
Like, and they're registered and everything's good.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like, could it be that you pulled me over because I'm black and I'm in Fishers and I'm driving a nice car?
Right.
Like, he went through, explained to me, like, I've bought specific cars as to not be on the radar.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, have you ever thought about that as a white person? Like, what car would get me unneeded attention from the police? No, that's not been your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so how are you unkind to your black neighbors? By not knowing their story.
Right.
And how do you get to know their story? Well, you be kind enough to say, like we talked about in the show, I'm going to get curious and I'm going to give you my time and we're going to sit and become friends.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to pull up a quote. I took notes from a sermon a couple weeks ago, and it he was just saying basically something along the lines of that Christians should be the most curious people in the world because we have everything to learn and nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so good because we know we're coming from a place of acceptance with the Lord and, right relationship with him. And so it doesn't, we don't lose anything from sitting down with someone and them saying anything to us, really. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it would be a good start to start getting curious. That's a good challenge to me.
And start being aware of the weird things we say as Christians. Just
like
the
what?
Weird terminology we use. Like righteousness. Or like talking about blood all the time. I've got theories of like what makes a great worship song.
Yeah.
Just a water reference.
Yeah.
You got to say blood.
Some kind of storm.
Some sort of you
Tornado,
reference.
hurricane.
You. Yeah. Those are my favorite. The worship songs that just say you all the time, but don't actually say God or Jesus in them. It's like, we got to be ambiguous, guys, so people lean in and say, what's this about? I don't know. I think Christians can be completely misunderstood for great reasons.
Yeah. We have our insiders talk for sure.
Yeah. But what's the scripture? It's like, they'll know you're my disciples by your love.
By your love.
It's like it's an action, not the things you say about me,
Yeah.
i.e. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. The sermon that I preached about this a couple weeks ago was, I think we'll try to post it on radiotheology.com. It's from the Mercy Road, their north west location, or not location, church. Anyway, talked about the story of the Good Samaritan. And one thing that jumped at me in that story is that this Samaritan, who would have been the person the Jews would have despised, he becomes the hero of the story, which is, we know that part of it. But what jumped out to me was this, is that there wasn't a litmus test for kindness of the guy that got beat up, and we don't know anything about him. We know he was on a journey, and he was beat up, and that someone needed to be kind to him. We don't know, like, was he coming back from a big party and he was totally drunk and like fell over into did he have an anger problem? And maybe he mouthed off at the robbers, and they're like, "Oh, what?" Maybe he had a history. Maybe he knew he shouldn't have been in that neighborhood at that time of day.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, maybe he was an addict. Maybe he was coming home from cheating on his wife. Maybe he was gay. Maybe he was a liberal Democrat. Maybe he was a conservative Republican. Maybe he was a Patriots fan. We don't know anything about him. And Jesus doesn't tell us anything about it. He just says that the neighbor was the one who, when he was in need, he showed him kindness and mercy.
Yeah.
And we can say we don't, but we're liars. We have a litmus test for compassion and mercy.
Yeah.
This person's in this situation. Well, they brought it on themselves.
Right.
Hey, if you'd made better choices with your money, maybe you wouldn't. If you learn about what drinking too much does to you, well, if you weren't dressed like that, maybe you wouldn't. Well, I mean, yeah, we know we show people God's kindness, but not when they're like that. Christians say these things all the time.
Yeah.
And we believe them because when we're faced with having to show compassion and kindness to someone who is breaking some of God's law or a moral thing or whatever, we pump the brakes and go, well, I can't endorse the sin. It's like, no, it's just actually being kind and merciful to another human being that's made in the image of God.
Right.
Because last time I checked, another Bible thing is that when God deals with us, there's an amazing passage that says that it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. So when God says, man, you know what? Daron's really off the rails and really hurting himself in a lot of ways as far as the decisions he's making. What would turn his heart towards me? Oh, I know. Judgment and wrath. And if I screamed and yelled at him and told him how stupid he was and how crappy his sin was and how it was wrong and quoted him all the scriptures in which he was violating, that would probably turn his heart.
Yep.
No, Jesus says, here's what I'll do. I'm going to be ridiculously merciful and kind to him. Best chance I get to actually turn his heart back towards me. So, yeah, Mr. Rogers, 3-step strategy to be a successful neighbor. Be kind, be kind, be kind.
There's a good quote. There was a book that Pope Francis wrote. We're talking about mercy and compassion. It's called The Name of God is Mercy. And he quotes I looked up who this dude was. I didn't know who he was, but his name's St. Francis de Sales. So he's like a 16th century Catholic saint from France. And he says, God hates faults because they are faults. On the other hand, however, in a certain sense, he loves faults since they give him an opportunity to show his mercy and us an opportunity to remain humble and to understand and sympathize with our neighbor's faults. It's pretty good.
It is good.
It's good stuff. It's a good book, too. I read it a while back, The Name of God is Mercy by Pope Francis, if you want to check it out.
Ryan, the resident evangelist connector.
There you go.
Giving you a resource that would help your life. Thank you, Rano.
Sure thing.
This week, we also talked about taking next steps to follow God's call or his purpose and plan in our life. We say every week here on Radio Theology that we believe you are created on purpose and for a purpose. That's why we've created the Spiritual DNA online course. You can go get that at spiritualdna.me. 5 different personal assessments as well as video teaching by me that will help you take the steps you need to discover the unique way God has created you, because we know this, when you know your worth, you will start changing your world. And so this is something that we're on a pursuit for. We're excited about the newest episode of the Born to Be interview on our podcast with Ken Coleman. He knocks it out of the park. It's a big part of what his radio show is about on the Dave Ramsey Network, where he's helping people find their dream job by really understanding the way God put him together. But we joked around about this term, purpose inertia.
Purpose inertia.
Purpose inertia. We joked that it sounds like a village in Scandinavia that the Swedish chef is from.
Yes.
Purpose inertia. We also had to look up the definition of inertia.
Yeah.
It's the resistance to being slowed down, I think is what it was. I think.
I like that. The resistance to being slowed down. But one of the things that we talked about is that first step one, you got to get clear on who God's created you to be so you can move strategically towards your purpose.
Yeah.
But what we realize is that we have a resistance to be slowed down, but oftentimes we're the ones slowing ourselves down because we're not actually moving.
Right. Well, yeah, and we're waiting. Let me rephrase. I'm waiting sometimes for my big break or my big whatever, my big next assignment, when really I'm just hiding because I'm scared. It's not like I'm not actually waiting for something amazing to happen. I'm waiting for the courage to come to make my next step, but courage is not going to just come, and the next step's not going to just come. I have to take the step. Action is both of those things, becoming courageous and then taking the step. But I hide instead, and I call it waiting. That's a lie, right? I'm hiding.
We went, Lisa, you encouraged me this week to sign up for a storytelling workshop.
Yeah.
You were going to do it. You're a storyteller. You wanted to get into this. You eventually want to write a book. And when you first said something about it, I actually nailed it on the head. In my brain, what I thought it was, like, I'm not going to some freaking storyteller thing with 10 women to sit around talking about telling a story. Like, lame. Which is my defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I think maybe this is my next thing. Like I've been saying forever, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. People have told me, you should write a book. You should write a book. And then I don't do anything about it.
Right.
Literally nothing.
You wonder why you don't have books to sell
Yeah.
when you go speak.
When is the big publishing company going to call me and be like, Darren, here's $10,000, write a book?
Yeah.
Guess what? Never happening. So I signed up for the thing. And I sat around a fireplace with 11 women by myself. It was great, Ryan. And I
He was
walked
living in a sweet spot.
And I walked in late, too, which was
Hello,
great.
ladies.
So I walk in, ladies.
I'm here.
I'm here. We can start. You're welcome.
You're
I'll be with
welcome.
you
Exactly.
You're welcome.
all day long.
Please, no pictures.
Who's the first to cry?
It was me.
It was Lisa. Surprise,
I
surprise.
was the only one to cry,
This is true.
and I cried all day long. Okay, carry on.
Anyway, it was the best thing I could have ever done.
Yeah.
Like, for the first time in my life, I actually have momentum with this. I have 16 chapter ideas in an actual story arc of a book. I actually have a date where I will start writing for 2 hours a week. It's a small step, but Fridays, starting in April 18th, I believe it is, from 10 to noon, I will spend 2 hours beginning writing my book. And who knows what God does in the next 12 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't said yes to go into the workshop, like these little steps that God begins to bring you the momentum on, you know. And Ryan, you're talking about, you shared the story on the show about you felt God nudge you, like, hey, send an email about getting involved in that small group that might be a songwriting thing.
Yeah.
Who knows what it becomes? But if you don't send the email,
Right.
you're still stuck.
Yeah, it wasn't start a songwriting outpost at your church. It was email Pastor Greg, learn, ask a question, set up a date.
Yeah.
So saying yes is one thing, like in your head, like, yes, I want to do that, or I'm going to do that. And then there's another thing of like, okay, there's your little stake in the ground. Cool. Now it's like, okay, open up your email and do it. So saying yes isn't always verbally or mentally saying yes. It's actually pulling up it's all just these little tiny action steps to get something done.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think one of the things that you said, dang, we must, yeah. Does your inspiration lead to action? Right? That was one of the quotes from our planning session that you had this week. Like,
I said that?
Yeah. Does your inspiration lead to action?
Okay. I believe you
That's
if it's
great.
in the
Right.
it's in the planning
Hey,
software.
I put it in the notes.
Yeah.
It's for real. But that's true. I get inspired all the time by things. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to always take action, but if I want anything to happen, sometimes you have to move.
Well, we said it last week. You get inspired, you get an idea, you got to write it down.
Yeah.
That was last week's episode. Write it down, and then that brings you some more momentum, and then you do take action, whether it's an email or it's going to a seminar or it's calling a friend. I mean, there's a process there.
Yeah. Well, and what I found, just to be a bit of encouragement, is when I do take those steps, I have found that the movement, the call, the whatever it is has already been in motion.
Yeah.
So I'm not the one even creating the momentum by the step. I'm just like hopping on the the moving sidewalk, whatever, the moving walkway in the airport, right? Like I'm just stepping on that. It's already in motion. And God's going to do what he's going to do because he has plans for this world that include me, which is great. But if I don't say yes to it and just sit around, he's going to find somebody else who's willing to get on the walkway.
You know, it reminds me that a story that Emily Sutherland shared with us at this storyteller retreat yesterday, or not yesterday, this week, whenever it was, blew my mind. Check this out, Ryan. She said that she got a song idea. She was a songwriter for the Gaithers for years. And she said God gave her this song idea of what it was going to be about and what the words were going to be about and what the theme of it was going to be. And she had it in her brain. She had it. And she never wrote it down. She never went after it. And then she said 3 years after that moment, she heard the song on the radio. Like it wasn't her song, but it was
someone else got the idea.
And I love that idea. And I've said that for a long time, that there are ideas right now on the heart and on the mind of God that he is looking to entrust to someone. I want this done. It's a business, it's a company, it's a family, it's a church, it's a book, it's whatever it is. It's a song. God's got, I have this on my heart. I'm dreaming this up. I'm going to create the future with this. I'm looking for someone available, someone humble enough, someone willing enough, someone courageous enough that I can give this. I'm going to let you borrow this and you be a steward with it. But it's amazing the thought that, like, if you say no or if you're stuck, he won't necessarily punish you for it, but you may miss out on the thing that he wanted to give to you.
So I think of two like forks in the road stories in Scripture where it's like, on the one side, God says, "Who's going to go and basically enact my plan?" And Isaiah raises a hand and says, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And then we hear about Isaiah. He writes this amazing book and he prophesies about the Messiah coming and does all these things, whatever. And then the story of the rich young ruler later, where he comes and he's like, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus basically tells him, he's like, "Hey, you've done all this stuff. Great. Now sell everything you own and come follow me. Sell everything to the poor and come follow me." And he goes to like the pain point in his life. And he says he walks away sad and we never hear about him again.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think to the bigger quote of like, does your what was it, Elisa? Does your what?
Does your inspiration lead to action?
Lead to action. Even the guy who came face to face with Jesus still walked away going, not for me.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. I looked up because I took etymology twice in high school and I'm a total nerd about this kind of stuff. But like, what does inspire actually mean? And it's from the Latin meaning to breathe or blow into. So you think respiration, inspiration, that S-P-I-R, it means you're breathing or blowing into. And I thought, where have I seen that before in the Bible? And it's like back in Genesis where God forms man out of dust and then breathes life into man.
The ruach of God, breath of God.
Look at you knowing some Hebrew over there. So it's like, all of this is because of him. It's from him. It's for him. It's with him.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm coming to more and more grips of like, man, all this stuff that I get to do is really, really awesome. And hardly any of it is because I built it. It's like, it was just steps of him leading me and nudging me to the next thing and going, hey, there's the door. You feel everything in you that's saying, I wonder if I should check that door out.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, the door is open. Great. Are you going to walk through or not? I love the story you said about Emily hearing the song that she let sit and someone else grabbed it, where God's like, okay, I'm not going to dog you. I'm not going to strike you with a lightning bolt because you're not running with the idea that I'm inspiring you with.
Yeah.
But if you're not, someone else is going to.
Yeah.
Yes, my people need to hear this, so
Yeah.
we're going to have someone else tell that story.
And my will is unstoppable. So I'll find someone else and I'll still take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of God's sort of impatient in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this needs to happen. Are you going to do it or not?
Yeah. Well, the word says like the kingdom of God, right? It's forcefully advancing, and forceful men and women take hold of it.
Yeah.
Like we're on the offense here, and he's looking for people that are ready to get down the field with him. And listen, your next step, you've got to know the direction. Like, does your inspiration lead to action, right? You got to know the direction to run.
Yeah.
And if you have zero idea the unique way God has created you, it's time for you to take Spiritual DNA. Go to spiritualdna.me, buy the course, watch the videos, take the assessments, interact with us on Facebook about it. But it's your next step, because if you don't know the unique ways God has created you, you don't know which direction to go. You don't know your voice. You don't know your calling. It's where you've got to start. And it's changed our life. We know it'll change your life, because when you know your worth, you will start changing your world. And we appreciate you downloading this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's an inspiration to you, that it gave you the breath of God, the ruach of God, because that's what we are, right? We're human beings brought to life by the Spirit, by the breath of God. And we believe in you, and we really do love you. We'd love to hear from you, whether that's through radiotheology.com or emailing myself, Daron, Lisa, or Ryan at blackbirdmission.com. Or if you'd like to leave a review or a comment on our podcast page, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to share this episode with folks that might need this inspiration in their life, and you can be a messenger of hope to them. So we appreciate it. Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Mic. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. For more episodes, go to radiotheology.com.